it
fun.
wa ikemasen?
Yes, wa ikemasen.
Oh, I
Yeah,
was
I
thinking
was-
like haikemasen.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
A lot
I
of people
was
do that.
confused. I was like, is it wa or is it ha?
Yeah, I probably need to make a note to actually teach that pronunciation right up front at the beginning of the chapter.
I was doing all my
Write that
practices
straight
and like,
into the text.
teihakemasen, teihakemasen.
Oh, whoops.
Oh, okay.
I'm just gonna
Okay.
write that straight
Hey,
to the
like-
point.
本番テレビを見てはいけません. Okay, you're not allowed to watch TV tonight. That's a nice distinction, putting a time on it. Okay. 図書館でタバコを吸ってはいけません. Not allowed to smoke cigarettes in the library. That's very good.
How about just all those words?
I don't think it even says that you pronounce it like that in the book.
Yeah, it doesn't actually,
At all.
it just kind of assumes that you will know this, and I don't know why
That's
they think you should know that.
Huh.
So,
Well, tewa ikemasen is a bit easier to say at least.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought-
easier to say, and it makes
Yeah.
more sense when you break
Yeah.
it down.
I thought teihakemasen was like sort of weird.
Yeah, I
like,
thought that was weird,
teihakemasen?
but I didn't know it was
Yeah.
law.
Yeah.
There's just no way for me to
Yeah, there's, okay, so
It's very
I'm just gonna-
helpful to know.
I'm gonna make a note.
But it's not very
Yeah.
okay, Grandpa?
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah. Thank you for the answer.
I'm just writing it in a couple of places to try to remember, because in the past, there was a time when I used to like go through all of the grammar points one by one in the grammar explanation first before going into the practical application renshu. And so when I was doing it that way, we would talk about this is how you pronounce it before people got to the exercise to do it. But now we're doing things in a different order. I need to adjust my teaching to make sure that people aren't practicing it with the wrong pronunciation in their heads for a week before we actually talk about it.
This is gonna be a bit of a transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my morning class kind of had similar comments, so I need to make a point of teaching it differently.
Yeah.
Okay, so, oh, and this morning we completely forgot to go through vocab drill at all at the beginning of class. Do you guys care? Do you want to still do
I
it?
know a lot of vocab before I came.
Yeah, me and Brendan like did.
Yeah,
did
you
all
guys
the
just
vocab,
did it?
so-
Yeah.
Okay, so you're
Very
okay
good.
with just going straight
you
into
guys good?
Nenshu?
I am okay.
Are you okay?
You're, would you rather we still did the vocab today? Or?
I can do it myself.
You can do it on your own? Okay. Yeah. Ideally, if everybody did it on their own, we would just spend that much more time on Nenshu and speaking practice and reading kanji practice and stuff like that in class. But, you know, if it helps people for us to do it in class sometimes, we'll do it.
I don't know. The only thing I struggle with by myself is just memorizing vocab.
Yeah.
Everything else comes pretty easily.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I like having more speaking time if possible. I think that's good for people, because isn't that the main goal? You have to actually talk to somebody in Japanese.
I think it's more fun to do that than just be like, all right, what does the card say? All
It's-
right, next
yeah.
card.
You can practice vocab just as well at home as in class, but you can't really practice speaking it as well at home as you can
Right.
in class.
Yeah, the problem is that having the vocab memorized is sort of a prereq
But
to being able to converse.
speaking
Well-
it is kind of helps you memorize the vocab too, like
Yeah.
applying it practically as opposed to like just kind of
Okay.
listening it off.
That's
Well,
how I usually memorize it anyway. I just
Yeah.
do that.
Just using it in
It's
context.
like just repeating it sort of like doesn't really go through after a while, but like trying to
Okay.
think like, okay, I need this word. Oh, it's this, like that. kind of
Okay,
Like
okay.
recalling it
So,
instead
yeah,
of just like,
if you guys are all okay with just kind of moving on to the practical application phase sooner, that's okay with me, you know. And the other thing I was gonna ask you guys about is, how do you feel about me conducting more of the class in Japanese, not using so much English? Try it?
As long as if you're using a new like.
if it's stuff we've already gone over, like
Yeah.
instead of
If
just
it's-
like random going off in words we don't know. It's like
Right.
If it's like
Not
a
very
word
helpful.
relating to like going through a textbook or conducting a class itself that we don't know, if you could like give us the rundown on it the first time. so that'd be
Okay,
helpful.
yeah,
Just
and,
use words we know.
yeah, I'll try.
Yeah,
And-
I had like a Spanish teacher, she'd start going off in Spanish, and it's like,
Okay,
Okay.
totally lost, yeah, if I don't go off on
Okay.
tangents, if I'm just talking about what we're actually doing, hopefully it'll make sense. But also, don't be shy about stopping me and asking questions if you need me to.
okay.
Okay, so, but we can try. じゃあ
Probably like little, like shorter
shorter
bursts
bursts.
at first, instead of
And-
like just entire
Occasional
Yeah.
conversations.
like occasional phrases.
Yeah.
はいじゃあ159ページを見ましょう。159ページを見てくださいね。はい、いいですか ?159 ページ、パート A。いいですか
そうですか。
じゃあ、ブランドンさん、エグザンプルを読んでください。
テレビを見る。テレビを見てはいけません。
はい。じゃあ、ベスニーさん、こ
これ、
れを使いますね。
使います
これ、
What's 使います
use。これを使います。
?OK。
一番、どうぞ。
一番タバコを吸う and see タバコを吸吸ってはいけません。
はーい。よくできました。はい。じゃあ、
窓を閉める。窓を閉めてはいけません。
はい。いいですね。じゃあ3番。
朝シャワーを浴びてはいけません。
はい。はい。いいですね。はい。あ、書きましたか
こ
はい。すごい。はい。はい
Um,
じゃあどうぞ、ブランドンさん。
do I do one myself now?
4番。4番。ここ。
Uh,
4番。1、2、3、4。
oh, we're here?
はい。これ。
Oh, you just want me to do the non-example, right?
はい。
Alright.
はい。これを手はいけません。
No, I got it.
Hi.
Okay, so, 死んでいけません。
で、4番。4番。あ、4番は遅く帰る。でしょ遅く帰る。
Oh, you see, I read this one over here.
You're just going the thing on the right, like part A.
Yeah.
You're just changing the verbs to te wa ikemasen, and you're changing all the verbs from part A of 2
Oh.
to that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So, 遅く帰っていきません。
帰って、
はいきません。
はい、そうです。
帰ってはいき
はい、帰ってはいけません。遅く帰ってはいけません。はい、じゃあ5番お願いします。
友達を連れてくる。友達を連れてきてはいけません。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ6番。
音楽を聴いてはいけません。
はい、7番。
夜出かけてはいけません。
はい、そうです。8番どうぞ。
パソコンを使ってはいけません。
はい。じゃあ9番。
自転車を借りてはいけません。
はい、そうですね。いいですかはい、質問がありますかありませんはい、じゃあパート B やってみましょう。じゃあオードリーさん、エグザンプルを読んでくださいね。
学校でタバコを吸ってはいけません。
はい。
ホストファミリーのうちで朝シャワーを 浴びてもいいです。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ、一つ手はいけません。一つ手もいいです。いいですか？はい、じゃあ、ジュリアンさん。
Oh, I didn't do that. Crap.
Just make it up.
バスの窓を開けてはいいです。いけません。
はい、開けてはいけません。はい。バスの窓を開けてはいけません。ね。お。
What is it prompting? 朝シャワーを浴びてもいいです。
はい、いいですね。はい。
I'm confused.
じゃあ、トランドンさん。
学校で窓を開けてもSo bad. Alright, so学校で窓を開けてはいけません。うちでお風呂に入ってもいいです。
はい、入ってもいいですね。はい、じゃあ、ブスニさん。
Okay, so飛行機でタバコを吸ってはいけません。
はい。
And then, let's see, so,うちで窓を閉めてもいいです。
はい、いいですね。
学校で犬を持ってきてはいけません。Did I throw it?
連れてきて。
連れてきて。Okay.
はい。
うちで犬と遊んでもいいです。
はい、いいですね。はい。はい。I think because it's alive, you use 連れてくる for 犬。
Well, they specified a person, so I didn't know if it was.
Yeah.
I think I saw something like that.
There
in one
was
of
an
the
example
examples
where
used it
they
with an animal.
used 連れてくる for
I s-
bringing an animal along.
I would assume since like the division between like arimas and imas is
Yeah,
living
it's
in
basically the
animals.
same division
Same
as
would
arimas,
apply.
imas. 連れてくる for things that you would use imas for, and 持ってくる for things that arimas would apply.
So not so much person, not a person as it is animate and animate.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, if you've got a plant, 持ってくる. If you've got a cat, 連れてくる. Although I've yet to see any cat that walks nicely on a leash, but
That's a story for another time.
yeah. Okay, so moving on. Part C やってみましょう。じゃあ、ジュリアンさん、Part A お願いします。ブランドンさん B お願いします。
図書館で電話をかけてもいいですか？
はい、電話をかけてもいいです。いえ、電話をかけてはいけません。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ1番、ブランドンさん、質問を聞いてください。
Here we go with the coincidence.
飛行機でタバコを吸ってもいいですか？
いいえ、タバコを吸ってはいけません。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ2番どうぞ。
So, クラスで寝てはいけません。That's not right.
質問。
クラスで寝てもいいですか？
いいえ、ク クラスで寝てはいけません。
はい、寝てはいけません。Notice there's no small tsu,
Okay.
because it's 寝る、寝て。
ここでコーヒーを飲んでもいいですか？
はい。
はい、飲んでもいいです。図書館で、図書館ではwhat did I even write?
話して。
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I wrote. That makes sense now. 話してもいいですか？
いえ、話してはいけません。図書館で食べてもいいですか？
はい、
5番。
okay.
図書館で食べてもいいですか？
いいえ、食べてはいけません。
はい、いいですね。
Still
はい。
That why いけません still don't us all.
Yeah,
That
but
was
you're doing a
fine.
good job with it.
Okay.
You're catching yourself, so good job.
学校 okay, here's that we were talking about.
はい。
学校へ犬を連れてきてもいいですか？
いいえ、学校へ犬を連れてきてはいけません。
はい。
連れて
Kind of enough.
はい。
Those ones are a lot of fun. Look how long it is.
はい。7番、どうぞ。
あなたの国で18歳の人はお酒を飲んでもいいですか？
いや、飲んでもいけません。
飲んでは
Yeah, well,
いけません。はい。Does it help if I give you a breakdown for what the ikemasen part really is?
Sure,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, so your basic structure is blank te form, right? Wa. Sorry, help if I were writing my e legibly. Ike ma sen. Okay, now everybody knows iku, right? Iku, ikimasu, to go. Ikeru is a conjugation off of iku that means to be able to go. So this is something that doesn't get introduced till way later, but most verbs in Japanese can conjugate into this potential form that allows you to say able to do that verb.
It's like the ka and the ke.
Yeah,
It
so
takes a lot of things out.
the ki from kimas changes to ke. So if you remember, our Godan verb thing. So you've got iku, ikimasu. We haven't learned it yet, but ikanai is a short form negative that's coming in lesson 8, I believe. And then ikeru and then iko would be to the rest of the 5 to fill out the Godan structure. So
Oh, so
all
ka-
of the u-verbs, another term for them is Godan verbs. Dan meaning levels or rows, if you like. So ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, that's the 5 dan, right? A, I, U, E, O, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, there's 5 vowel sounds. So the ones that conjugate from ku, ki, ka, ke, and ko all exist. Okay, so iku, ikimasu, ikanai, ikeru, iko. If you're talking about like kiku, to listen, kikanai, kikimasu, kiku, kikeru, kiko. If you're talking about au, it actually goes awanai, aimasu, au, aeru, ao. All of the u verbs do this. Okay? So we've learned iku, we've learned ikimasu. We're gonna be learning ikanai this semester. Iko comes next semester level 3, I believe. 3 or 4, depending on how fast we move. And ikeru also comes in level 3, usually, okay? So this is an idiom that comes off of that form of the verb, okay? And you've heard of idioms like, oh, that won't fly, that won't work,
Yeah.
right? You know, you make a suggestion of, oh, let's go study tomorrow at the library and before our test, and somebody says, oh, that's not gonna work. They don't mean that, you know, there's a mechanism that's broken down, right? It's an idiom. It's not meant to be taken literally. This is the same thing. It's the equivalent of that. Ikeru is to be able to go. Ikemasen would be to be unable to go. But it doesn't mean that you're physically unable to go somewhere. It's saying that whatever this action is the subject that won't work, isn't any good, is a bad idea. You know, won't fly, whatever idiom you want to use to translate, but it's basically saying may not, is not allowed, right? But do you see how it's basically an idiom that's similar in strength to some of those idioms that we have in English that also basically say, yeah, that's not going to be allowed.
Yeah, it makes sense that something like that when it has the wa pronunciation.
Yeah.
but-
So the wa is basically saying this verb that we're talking about over here that's in te form, that's our topic that's not allowed. That's the thing that's not allowed, this verb. Make sense? So, you know, if there's a beautiful, gorgeous birthday cake sitting there on the table, and you say, "Keiki o tabete mo ii desu ka?" and your friend is like, "Iie, tanjoubi wa ashita desu." The birthday is tomorrow. Keiki o tabete wa ikemasen. You're not allowed to eat that cake now. It's for tomorrow. You have to save it. Right? So does that help to kind of illustrate? Okay, so that might help you as you stumble over that darn wa that wasn't fully explained in the textbook. Yeah, I don't know why this.
That's like such a, seems so strange that they wouldn't include it.
I think it's honestly, it's one of those things where native speakers just didn't notice that
They
it
just
was
don't
something
even
that
think
needed
about it.
explaining.
Yeah.
It's something that's so completely thoroughly obvious to them that it just never occurred to them, wait a minute, Americans aren't going to know to pronounce this as the particle wa. Gaijin aren't going to know this. We have to explain it to them. It didn't occur to them. It just went shoo.
I'm glad they gave us, that much credit.
Yeah.
I looked at it and I was like, it looks like that structure, but I'm not sure.
Right, yeah, so that's what it is. And the other little clue that makes a lot more sense in hindsight is the mo in the positive form is a particle that often replaces wa, right? So tabete mo ii desu is like, yeah, it's fine if you eat that cake right now, right? Tabete mo ii desu. It's fine. And if you think about it in the question structure, tabete mo ii desu ka? Is it okay if I eat that too? You know, it's like that hesitancy that is so common in Japanese questions when you're asking for permission or asking something that the other person might object to. And you ask it in a hesitant sort of way on purpose so that they've got an easy way out so they can, say no to you without being rude or feeling guilty for saying no. So, tabete mo ii desu ka? Is it okay if I eat that too? In addition to whatever else I might be doing? So that's kind of a feel for it that might help you understand the structure. Okay, so any te form verb wa ikemasen means that verb is what's not allowed. Okay, so moving on, because that last one was 18歳の人は お酒を飲んではいけません。ね? And notice also in the questions you had to say that whole long thing for the question, right? But your answer, you could take a shorter form, right? As long as you have the verb in the te form, wa ikemasen, or the verb in the te form, mo ii desu. The rest of it is the same as what was in the question, so it's implied, even if you don't restate it. All right, so, even for that, あなたの国で18歳の人はお酒を飲んでもいいですか? You can answer with いいえ、飲んではいけません. Or はい、飲んでもいいですよ. Depending on what country we're talking about, right? Because there are some countries that have a lower drinking age. Yeah. Yeah, and don't forget this is intended as an international textbook. Even though it's written in English, which isn't fair to the rest of the world, they use this a lot in Japan with groups of students who may be from a variety of countries.
Exchange students.
Yeah, exchange students, yeah. This originated as a textbook for students who traveled to Japan to enter like a private 4-week or 8-week or 10-week language study program type thing, where they go to Japan, they live in an apartment and attend school 5 days a week using a book like this, and they stay for a certain number of weeks and then they go home again. That's who originally wrote this book, was senseis from a school like that. Okay, so 朝起きてコーヒーを飲みます. So here we have yet another usage of te form, right? So far we've had te kudasai, please, right? We've had te mo ii desu ka, asking permission, te mo ii desu, giving permission, and te wa ikemasen, refusing permission, denying permission, right? So we've had 4 uses already. Number 5 is this thing, which is basically telling you a sequence of 2 or more actions, 2 or more verbs, 2 or more events. So I'm going to do this, then that. Or yesterday I did this, then that. The te form in and of itself does not have tense. So whatever the final verb is, whatever tense that verb takes applies to the te form verbs early in the sentence as well. And there's no particular limit. They're doing just 2 verbs in a sentence for our practice examples here, but there are some writers in Japan who take great delight in making their sentences as long as humanly possible. And that can include te, 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 a whole bunch of them, followed by one final verb in a normal ending form. So, 朝起きて、朝ごはんを食べて、学校に行って、クラスに行って、図書館で勉強して、昼ごはんを食べて、家に帰って、晩ごはんを食べて、寝ます。You can do 9 verbs in one sentence if you really want to. It's crazy, and I don't know why anybody would, but it's possible. And there are no particular rules in Japanese about run-on sentences. So it gets really interesting when you get into a situation where you're actually doing paragraph translation or short story translation from Japanese into English. And there are times when you just have to make the decision, you know what? This whole paragraph is 1 sentence in Japanese. I'm going to have to chop it up into at least 6 sentences to make it work in English.
Whole week in 1 sentence.
Yeah. Yeah, I have literally seen some authors write a short paragraph, but still a whole paragraph. That was 1 sentence. Craziness.
With no commas, it's just all together.
Well, no, you can have commas, but still, 1 sentence, it's kind of crazy, but, you know, it's possible in Japanese because the grammar structure allows for it, and because of grammar particles, you know, your was and your os and your ne's and your des and all that stuff, you can make it work, and it's still comprehensible. You might have to read the same paragraph 5 times to get the whole idea, but it is possible to figure it out because the grammar particles are like a roadmap that tell you what function all the different structures are serving, right? So even if it's not just a list of, you know, first he did this, then 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 this, you know, you can have a more complex sentence than that and still have it be one long complex sentence with multiple subordinate clauses, and it still works according to rules. Whether you really want it to read it that way is a different question.
Faulkner would have had a heyday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are some long-winded authors in English too, but,
No,
yeah. So anyway, so the structure here is just using the te form for the first verb and then whatever your normal ending would be for the second verb. And so it's like subordinate clause and independent clause, really. Yeah, it's 2 clauses which, if you took the te form and turned it into a regular mas form ending, it could be a separate sentence, right? But by turning it into te form, you can't just end it there. But you can put a comma and put the second action. Okay? So whose turn was it to read the example?
I thought you read the example.
Oh, yeah, that's, yeah. 朝起きてコーヒーを飲みます。Okay, じゃあ、ブランドンさん1番。So, and there's more than one way to interpret this. I see it as she's turning off the TV and then leaving the house, or headed to school, one or the other.
So, メアリさんはテレビを消して、
はい。
うちに出ました。
うちを出ました。
Okay, so
Okay.
it's not me even though she's leaving?
Right, うちを出る。
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, テレビを消してうちを出ます。うちを、出ました if you wanted to be past tense. You know, there's no tense inherent in the
Yeah,
te form,
they
and
both
there's no
work.
obvious tense in their pictures, so you can do it whichever way you like. じゃあ2番。
昼ご飯を食べてトイレに行きます。
はい、そうですね。じゃあ3番。
お風呂に入って with a small super
はい、
入って、デートをしました。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ4番。
宿題をして12時に寝ました。
はい。はい、that works. 12時に寝ました。That works.
新聞を読んで
はい。
コーヒーを飲みます。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ、質問がありますか? Any questions about those? Okay, so we can go on to B, which is to change the forms into te form, and you make up what you want your second action to be. So, do you want to read the example, or? Okay, go ahead. Why don't you just, yeah,
Okay.
and then we'll keep going around.
朝起きる when it goes to 朝起きて新聞を読みます。
はい。じゃあ1番。
友達の家に行ってテレビゲームをします。
はい。いいですね。じゃあ2番。
家に帰ってシャワーを浴びます。
はい、シャワーを浴びます。いいですね。3番。
電車を降りてうちに帰ります。
はい、帰ります。はい。じゃあ4番。
そう友達に会って映画を見ました。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ5番。
お風呂に入って、部屋で寝ます。
はい、that works。6番。
大学に行ってクラスで座りました。
はい、大学に行ってクラスで座ります。はい、that works。OK、じゃあパート C やりましょうか。
明日の夜、何をしますか？
図書館で勉強して家に帰ります。
はい、いいですね。
Am I gonna
じゃあ1番。
1番
はい、聞いてください。
そう今日の夜 Okay, I'm just asking the question. So
はい。
今日の夜何をしますか？
うちに帰って寝ます。
はい、そうですね。いいアイディアですね。
明日の朝何をしますか？起きて朝ごはんを食べます。
はい、そうですね。
昨日の朝何をしますか？
昨日の朝、so 何を past tense？
何をしました？
はい、何をしましたか？はい。
起きてテレビを見ました。
はい、いいですね。
昨日の夜何をしましたか？
勉強して寝ました。
はい、いいですね。5番。
今週の週末は何をしますか？
お母さんに会って猫と遊びます。
はい、いいですね。
先週の週末何をしますか？
先週、
しましたか？
はい、何をしましたか？
電車を乗って東京へ行きました。
I think it would be 電車に乗って東京に行きました。電車に乗る。いいですね。じゃあ、質問がありますか？ Any questions about those guys? はい。
Out of curiosity,
Hi.
you used abiru. What particle did you use of abiru? To?
シャワーを浴びる。It should.
Asobu, I mean. Oh, asobu. Like person to asobu. To. Yeah.
If you're
okay.
doing something fun with somebody, yeah, it's like 友達と遊ぶ、猫と遊ぶ。
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
With.
I didn't think of using to. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm looking for time.
It's
By 10.
yeah.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of time. Okay, good. So we can move on. Moving right along here. じゃあ Okay, so kara is our next concept here. So looking at the title here, 勉強します。明日テストがありますから。So obviously 勉強します is what you're planning to do, right? I'm going to study. And then 明日テストがありますから。That's like stating your reason why. So I had a student years ago, come up with this translation to tell me, I'm going to study, there's a test tomorrow, that's why. So they actually translate the kara as that's why. Somebody doesn't know my teaching schedule. Okay, so there's something weird about kara that I kind of wanted to introduce. So you guys, I'm just going to use their example, benkyou shimasu, right? So benkyou shimasu, that's what you're going to do, right? And then ashita testo ga arimasu kara. Okay, that's our second piece, right? So this is saying what you're going to do. I'll study, right? And this is, there's a test tomorrow. That's why. Okay, so that's your basic structure that they're teaching you. The weird thing about this is that they're teaching it to you in an order that's not the traditional order for these two sentences. And later on, in a later chapter, they actually teach it the traditional way, which would be to put the blue part first and the red part second. And when they do it in that order, it actually can be all one sentence. If you say, ashita testo ga arimasu kara benkyou shimasu, that's actually a more traditional structure for this sentence. The English translation still works. There's a test tomorrow. That's why I'll study. You know, put a time phrase on here and it makes even more sense, right? If you put in like honban benkyou shimasu, right? Ashita testo ga arimasu kara. I'm going to study tonight. Why? There's a test tomorrow, that's why. Right? And if you reverse it, ashita testo ga arimasu kara honban benkyou shimasu. It works in that order too.
Would you just like put a comma?
Yeah,
after
just
the
put
kara,
a
and then
comma
honban
after the
benkyou
kara, and the rest of it just continues on to make a single sentence. So,
I guess they're expecting whoever is being taught this to be like giving the reason, and someone's like, hey, doshite, and then they have to give a reason as a separate
Right.
thing, not as.
yeah, that could be part of the reasoning for it. Also, I think that they were maybe under the misperception that this structure would somehow be easier for Westerners to get because it's closer to what we would say in English. The truth is, I don't think it's any easier than the other way around.
If anything, I think the other way around would be easier.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's better, because it's just two sentences this way.
Yeah. So I usually, when we get to this chapter, I usually introduce their way, and then I show you that it can go the other direction, partly just for the sake of anybody who may have encountered it said the more traditional way before, and this way confuses them because they've heard it done the other way. And I don't want them to just be left hanging. But also because, like you said, some people find it easier to do it the other way around. The one thing I don't want you to do is get confused about where the heck the kara goes. That's why I left it the same color as this blue sentence, because it stays part of that order regardless of whether it goes this way or whether you flip-flop them.
It's kind of like a particle.
It's kind of like a particle, yeah. Yeah, and this textbook, I think, translates it as because. That also I find misleading because it puts it in the wrong word order in a sentence in relation to English, right? Because you cannot put kara here. That really screws it up.
It's kind of like the wa is deception.
Right, yeah. Yeah, equating wa to is totally wrong, but a lot of beginners do it, right? watashi wa gakusei desu. The wa does not mean is for or am, for I am a student, right? It's watashi wa gakusei desu. I student am, right? And so this same thing here, the kara is closer to that's why, in terms of following the structure of where we would put it in English. And the that's why works better for when you reverse it, you've still got a sentence that makes sense, right? There's a test tomorrow, that's why I'll study tonight, right? So regardless of which order you want to use, you need to make sure that the kara is at the end of the reason, not the action. And figuring out which one is which is where a lot of people get tripped up. Because they come up with what they want to say in English first, and then they try to translate it into Japanese, but somewhere along the way they lose track of which part is what they're doing and which part is the reason for what they're doing, right? What's the cause, what's the effect, kind of gets all confused. I don't even like using the terms cause and effect for this kind of pairing because people don't seem to be able to figure out how to apply those concepts to this kind of a sentence. So, you know, that's why I like to say this is the action that you're going to take, right? This is the reason you're going to take that action, right? I think that's clearer than a cause and effect kind of explanation, right? So they're using that example. So they're giving you what someone's going to do or what someone did, because some of these are past tense, and then they want you to add the reason why, the blah 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 kara to it. So far so good? So let's try some and see how they go. So, Bethany-san, you want to try 1番?
Okay. 先週は大変でした。宿題がありましたから。
Okay, that works. And if you wanted to make it sound more dramatic, 宿題がたくさんありましたから、you know, something like that. You know, you can remember you've got adjectives and adverbs you can use now. So, you know, you can add those. Just like in your English papers, they always tell you, add more descriptions, you know, add more color, you know. So you can do that with Japanese now. You've got more repertoire to work with.
My teacher does that all the time. I'm just like, there is so much description. She's like, more. I'm like, no.
I'd say essay, but I don't know what that is. But I guess I could have said like 難しい
宿題
宿題
がありましたから。Yeah, that works. はい。
映画を見ません。大学のクラスがあります。
から。Okay, yeah, so you're not going to go see that movie because you've got class during that time. That works. はい。
Alright, I want to put it at the end. So
Okay.
I want to try it traditional way. So,
はい。
レストランはすごいです。ただ、よくあのレストランに行きます。
はい, that works. And you could even leave out the first レストランは if you wanted to. You could say すごいですからあのレストランによくあのレストランに行きます。
Does that even sound like way better? Just to like leave it out and put it at the end?
It kind of just sounds more natural, more like what a native
Yeah,
speaker would
okay.
probably come up with.
Okay.
So,
大丈夫ですか？
okay.
So you get rid of the first restaurant well instead of the second one?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Remove
すごいですか
redundancy.
らよくあのレストランに行きます。
Okay.
Yeah, because it's fantastic, I often go to that restaurant.
I often feel like when I want to speak Japanese, I need to like speak backwards English.
Yeah, yeah,
That's how I
I
feel.
sometimes wonder if that was the inspiration for Yoda.
I was on this, it was actually Tofugu, like they have a little,
Yeah,
they have like their little like learn to speak Japanese thing, and before I
Yeah.
took the semester when I was going through that, and they said like, well, if you want to talk in Japanese, just use the Yoda sentence structure, that's how you do it. Although I don't actually
It's-
watch Star Wars, so that doesn't help me out a whole lot, but
Oh,
that's
okay.
the example they were using.
yeah, well, and actually the Yoda structure really doesn't match up exactly with Japanese, but
They were using
it's
it,
funny.
they were using it for like, to teach like des, like
Yeah,
the pencil is like des.
yeah, yeah, like that is a pencil, that a pencil is.
Yeah.
That pencil is.
Yeah. Okay, じゃあ次、
Okay, 4番
4番、はい。
So, okay, so, 昨日クラスを休みました。病院に行きましたから。
はい, that works. And again, you can hear how that would fit together the other way too. 病院に行きましたから、昨日クラスを休みました。はい、じゃあ5番。
ベッサニーが大好きです。優しい人ですから。
はい、よくできました。
ありがとう。
I love the drama.
So much drama. オードリーさんも優しい。
かっこいい。はい、じゃあ6番どうぞ。
友達に教科書を借りました。
I don't know, the first thing that comes to mind is I lost it, but then
Okay.
I don't think we have it.
But we've got forgot it, right?
We do?
Yeah. 忘れる。
Oh, I forgot about
Yeah, you forgot 忘れる. Oh no! There's irony for you.
the irony is real.
忘れるを忘れました。
What should I say? 私の教科書を
忘れました。
忘れました。
から
Fail. That was a
大丈夫
horrendous
で
fail.
す。はい。So, 友達に教科書を借りました。自分のを忘れましたから。or 私の教科書を忘れましたから。A lot of times when you're distinguishing between friend's textbook and my own textbook or something, rather than saying 私の教科書, because that sounds repetitive, because you already said 友達の教科書. One of the ways they replace that is with 自分のを忘れましたから。
自分の
Yeah, 自分の, just mine. 自分 is self, so it's like, because I forgot my own.
I left my
Yeah. はい、いいですね。Okay, if we still got time, we can go on to B. はい、we still have a little time, so 次読みましょ
昼ご飯を食べなさい。私は昼ご飯を食べなさい。
どうしてですか？
あまりお金がありませんから。
What is, okay, I was wondering this when I did the homework. What is the sanwa? Sanha?
う。B さんは、
Oh,
Yeah, it's like me
Oh,
asking,
okay.
like, how about you?
yeah, so it would be
I
like,
see.
セスミさんは、はい。
I just got confused because it was like A, B, and
Yeah.
I got you. I got you. Alright.
So Bethany さんは
私もお昼ご飯を食べません。クラスがありますから。
はい。 So the idea here is like different people coming up with different reasons for their action, right? You know, you might both be doing the same thing, but you've got different reasons for doing it. Make sense? じゃあ、ベスニーさんとオードリーさん、1番お願いします。
Okay, so, 今週は大変です。
どうしてですか？
Why is it difficult? 私、たくさん宿題がありますから。
私も今週は大変です。難しいクラスがありますから。
はい、いいですね。You forgot the B さんは but that's okay. You forgot the Audrey さんは
Okay.
that's okay. She jumped right in there, so. はい、じゃあどうぞ。
テンパが好きですか？
どうしてですか？
が好きです。たくさんレストランがあります。ですから。
ありますから。
ありますから。
はい。
たくさんレストランがありますから。ジリアンさんは
私もタンパが好きです。
Busch Gardens. Oh, Legoland.
海が好きですか？
はい、that works.
Oh God, no.
どうし
I
て
don't watch very many movies.
あ
Deadpool.
I haven't watched that one yet.
You should.
well, it's future plans, so you can just make it up, and it could be a movie you haven't seen yet.
Oh God. I'll just週末デッドを見ます。
どうでしたか？
どうしてですか？
どうしてですか？
Yeah. Ask him why.
面白いですから。
はい。Okay, so she said 面白いですから。Oh, and you're supposed to say.
ブランドさんは。
ブランドさんは。So something along the lines of 私も。
私も見ました。すごいですから。
Okay. And I think they're intending for this to all be in future tense. I'm not sure.
Future?
Yeah. 私も見ます。すごいですから。Yeah. Although, yeah, some of these are awkward in the future tense, I think. But, you know, whatever. Well, 4番やってみましょう。
ドナルド・トランプが嫌いです。
どうしてですか？
優しいじゃないです。
How do you put that in the negative?
It was 優しくないですから。
はい。
ベトニーさんは
What can you come up to say? Come up with.
優しくないですよ。
Alright, so, okay, 私もドナルド・トランプが嫌いです。Oh. Nice choice. Tsumaranai desu kana?
Okay, つまらないですから。Okay.
I disagree.
Yeah. Sorry, the first word that came to my mind was baka. Not very polite, but that was the first word that jumped into my head.
So, お金が全然なりません。
どうしてですか？
テレビゲームを買いましたから。
ああ、なるほど。
たくさんテレビゲームを買いましたから。
あ、別に、
お、
お
おぼりさんは
あ私もお金が全然ありません。たくさんケーキを買いましたから。
chocolateも。
That
How do you say chocolate?
チョコレート。
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 これ
はい。チョコレートですか？
いえ、チョコレート
じゃない。
じゃないです。
チョコレート counts as a noun, I think,
Okay.
rather than an adjective. はい。
そう来年は日本語を勉強しません。どうしてですか？猫と遊びましたから。
遊びます。
遊びますから。Okay.
はい
It's not.
Yeah. Future tense. 来年 is next year.
Oh, that's why I went,
Huh?
what? I was like,
She's gonna be too busy playing with her cat.
okay.
ね
It's serious business. 私も来年は日本語を勉強しません。クラスがありませんから。
はい。
Most of the time works there.
That's funny. Yeah. 来年 is next year. So
I was
So
looking
you
at it
had
earlier.
so much last year that
I
you
was
can't
do
do anything
expecting
else
your,
next year.
my brain, my mouth said Rainan, but my brain said,
明日 or 来週 yeah.
But yeah, I was expecting her to take mine because that was the only thing I could think of, and then I went, what?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Hey, this is why it's good practice, because you don't know what the other person is going to say, so you have to just respond to whatever you hear, and that makes it good listening practice, because if you already know what to expect, you don't have to work that hard at understanding what the person actually said.
That's the moment I go, Nani?
いいですよ。じゃあ次やってみましょ
来週オランドに行きます。
どうしてですか？
買い物ですから。
う。
何かな。
買い物をしますから。買い物をしますから。あ、ランドですか？
オーランドはI don't know to describe it per se.
Okay. じゃあ私もオーランドに行きます。賑やかですから。Is it lively there?
オーランドはにぎやかな
賑やかです
にぎやかです
から。
から
Are you trying to do the other order?
I don't even know. I'm just
Okay.
trying to formulate like what I want to think about Orlando because it's hard. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah. Well, like Nigiyaka is just lively, but there's a lot happening there.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just be like Orlando wa nigiyaka desu kara watashi wa.
私も。
Well, I wanted to say that's why I don't go there.
Oh. Okay, so 私は、
私は行きません。
はい、あまり行きません。Yeah.
あまり行きません。
Yeah.
Alright.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay, that works. 賑やかですからあまり行きません。面白いですね。じゃあ8番どうぞ。
自転車を買います。
どうでしたかな？
どうして
どうでしたか？
あ
どうしてですか？
はい。
I'm so enthusiastic with those cars now.
自転車は高いですから。ベンニーさんは
You said you are or aren't buying it.
You're saying you are going to buy one, but the reason is because it's expensive?
Yeah,
So you just want to blow all your money on something?
that's correct.
Just wanna
I
flaunt
want
your
a-
wealth.
I want a nice bicycle.
Hey, I can go with that.
I just got it.
私も自転車を買います。What did you say? 楽しいから
楽しいですから。
楽しいですから or is it
Right.
like writing
Because
it
it's fun.
is fun like
Just 楽しいですから is fine. We haven't learned how to take a verb and put it into a gerund form that lets you connect.
Okay, I was gonna say like
There.
so just 楽しいですから
Right, that works for now. Yeah, there are more complex ways to express that concept once we've learned those grammar structures. But like I was telling my morning class, Japanese is not a language where you can just sort of fudge it and throw anything in there that you want to throw in and expect people to get it. If it's not the right grammar structure, it often ends up sounding like gibberish. So, いいですか？質問がありますか？ Yay, you guys got through a lot tonight. And
It's 5:40.
yeah, I think we can do like a quick discussion of how the next one works and why it's different from the other mashoka that we've had. But we won't have time to really do the exercises, I don't think. So basically, the mashoka that you already know is like ikimashouka, shall we go, right? And hi, ikimashou, yeah, let's go, right? This mashoka is more like, shall I do it for you? So like, tetsudaimashou ka, can I help you? You know, shall I help you? It's like that. Okay, so you can do it for like, nimotsu o mochimasu. Nimotsu o mochimashou ka? Shall I carry that luggage for you? You know, doa o akemashou ka? Shall I open the door for you? Like if you see somebody carrying way too many packages and they're trying to get through the door and there's no way they're going to make it without dropping something, you know, so doa o akemashou ka? Or like somebody's sitting there shivering and the window is open and blowing right on them. Mazo o shimemashou ka? Shall I close that window for you, you know? So any kind of verb where that scenario works, where you're offering to do the action for someone else's sake, as a way of helping them, okay? So if you use it for something like tabemashou ka, it's going to sound sarcastic, you know, or sound weird, because, you know, if somebody's like sitting there eating their cake, and you're like, tabemashou ka? You know, that's a little weird, right? Like, oh, can I help you finish that? Because you really don't need it. You know, that's almost like implying that, you know, you're too fat to be eating that much cake. Let me help you finish it. So you've got to be careful which verbs you use this one on. You know, but usually context will clarify. Because, you know, tabemashou ka in a non-sarcastic way could be like, shall we eat? Like, together, you know? And if you're offering somebody a plate of food and you've got a plate of food, then 食べましょうか is like, shall we eat?
So
You know, invitation like. But, you know, if it's something like 窓を閉めましょうか? Shall I close the window for you? That's kind of implied that it's for you. Like, let's say the person is sick in bed and the window's open, but they look like it's too cold in the room for them. 窓を閉めましょうか? Shall I close the window for you? Make sense? So that's basically what this structure is. And since you already know how to do the masho endings, and that's easy to do, right? Because it's just a mas form just converted to masho instead. This is a pretty simple, straightforward exercise. It's just getting a different concept of it. Question?
So this is about the kata
Uh-huh.
sentences.
Uh-huh.
Is the like normal structure of that where the like sore kata comes from, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you think about, you know, like, 明日東京に行きます。それから鎌倉にも行きます。In addition to that. Yeah. So it's, well, それから it's not quite the same, really, because that kata is more like a sequence of events. In addition, I'm going to do this other thing. Whereas this kata is more like an explanation of why something's going to get done. So that other kata is maybe a little bit closer to the kata in karamare, where it's from and to. So, you know, if you there are a lot of different expressions that use kata, but there's more than one translation depending on which one it is. So you've got sore kara, which is sort of like and then or in addition. You've got ima kara, which would be starting now, from now, basically. And you've got like ichiji kara sanji made, would be from 1 o'clock until 3 o'clock. Tokyo kara New York made would be from Tokyo to New York, like distance traveled or, you know, airline flight or whatever. So there are a bunch of different uses of kara. They all happen to sound alike and be written in hiragana. I don't know that any of them have a kanji associated with them, at least not in modern Japanese. You can pretty much assume that anything that's written in Japanese at some point in the past had a kanji associated with it, but many of them no longer do. Especially anything that's particle-like, anything that's primary function is grammatical rather than meaning-oriented, tends not to use its kanji any longer. Although there are a few remnants. Mata, which means again, sometimes still gets written in kanji. The suffix teki, which means something like, you know, like something is like something or other. Similar to or as if kind of thing, that has a kanji. So like dendo is traditional. So dendo teki is a traditional item. It, you know, like becomes a description that something is traditional. Dendo is tradition, I guess. So dendo teki would be traditional. But yeah, so there are a few examples of kanji associated with particle-ish terms, but kata, as far as I know, doesn't get written with the kanji any longer. But yeah, there are some differences in usage. But that's a good noticing that other kata is sort of similar to this kata, just not the same. Okay?
So with the mashoka,
Yeah.
again with the kekko desu, would that be kind of a strange response?
It can be a strange response depending on the circumstances. So, like, you know, 窓を閉めましょうか? Kekko desu. Kind of sounds like, yeah, don't bother, don't worry about it, rather than thank you. That would be nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Kekko desu in that case sounds more like, I'm fine, you don't have to do that.
So daijoubu would be more.
No, daijoubu still sounds like, yeah, no, I'm fine, don't worry. If you're offering to do something for someone and they are thanking you for the help, actually the response is more likely to be sumimasen.
But I mean, like if you're denying.
Yeah, so if let's say you're using tetsudaimashou ka, shall I help you? Can I help you with that? Kekko desu would be, no, I'm fine, I don't need the help. Daijoubu desu would also be, I'm fine, I don't need the help. Sumimasen, domo, arigato. That would be, yes, thank you, please help.
But like daijoubu is what you would normally use for like the no thanks. That's all right.
Daijoubu and kekko are, the difference is one of politeness level. Daijoubu desu is a
So-
little bit less polite, it's a little bit more casual. Kekko desu is definitely formal.
Okay.
It's quite formal.
Like more formal than you would use just like for like a shopkeeper or something like a stranger.
Yeah, kekko desu is for like a stranger, somebody who's maybe a little bit higher status than you. Yeah, so like you're dealing with a big pile of packages and your sensei offers mochimashou ka, and you're like, oh, kekko desu, I'm fine, I don't need the help, you know, don't want to put out my sensei, you know. So it's a little bit more polite than daijoubu desu. Daijoubu desu, as a response to a higher status person offering help, sounds a little rude actually. Daijoubu desu would be more like to your friend.
Okay.
You know, if your friend is offering to help and you really don't particularly need the help. Yeah, daijoubu desu. I'm fine.
I was just thinking about it. Is there like a Japanese equivalent of blessing?
For sneezes,
Yeah.
not commonly used. I've heard that some families use the expression hakushon. I heard that from a Japanese American student that I had once in class a few years back. I've never heard that used in Japan. It may be that it's sort of a Japanese adaptation to Western culture, that, you know, Japanese families living in this country use it because they feel the need to say something because Americans say something. But Japanese culture traditionally didn't really acknowledge sneezes except to kind of look and see if you're okay. It may or may not have something to do with being Japanese and Christian, which are two things that don't coincide all that often. There's less than 1% of the Japanese population that's Christian, but overseas Japanese families are more likely to be Christian than those living in Japan. Partly, I think, just from the Japanese cultural tendency to want to fit in. And so if they're living in a predominantly Christian society, they're more likely to get interested in, well, you know, I'll give this Christian thing a try because everybody around us is doing it. And I want to feel like I belong here and I'm part of things, you know. So, yeah, and it may also have something to do with it just being more likely that a family that's already Christian who's from Japan might choose to move overseas. You know, I'm not sure where the correlation causation line is there. But, yeah, so hakushon is the only expression I've ever heard of as being sometimes used when someone sneezes, but like I said, I don't remember anybody in Japan using it, only that family I knew here.
Yeah, because I know Gesundheit, which is
That's
comes from
German, yeah.
Gesundheit, which is good health to you.
Yeah.
I used to try to learn German.
But English and German are like in a similar family too.
Right, and well, the whole custom of saying something when somebody sneezes came out of a medieval superstition.
Which is,
Go.
I find very
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
It's more like